What's up, ZenDoc fam? It's Bamie from TheZenDoc here, and today we're going to be learning and creating 3D clay art together. So if this is something that you're interested in, you've come to the right place. But before I go too far into the video, if you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. It's good to see you. If you're not subscribed, I truly hope that you will support my work and my efforts by hitting that subscribe button and turning on bell notifications so that you're always, aware when I have new tutorial videos up. And on your end, I promise you, if you hit that subscribe button, you will always find this channel to be a source of inspiration. There will be constant ideas coming at you, so thank you. Anyway, it's been a while since I've made some 3D clay artwork, and I am feeling inspired today, and we're going to be making one together. So from the process, from start to completion, that's what this video is about. As always, all of the links to the materials that I use will be left in the description. So if you're wondering about any materials, just check that description box. So I have a piece of 8x10 blank canvas here. I've got my rolling pin, which I strictly only use for clay art. And I've got some leftover air dried clay here. So that's what we're going to use. To get started, I'm just going to take my spray bottle and spray the back of this canvas. Now this is a trick to help tighten up your canvas. So if you have any canvas maybe that has been laying around for a while, maybe it's not as stretched anymore, if it's a little rippled, this is a good tip for that. Just spray some water at the back of the canvas. When it dries, just watch the magic happen. So your canvas will stretch, will be better stretched. I like to do this for clay. Given the density of clay in itself, it's quite heavy and has the potential to weigh down, the canvas. So I like to stretch in it before I get started. And throughout this process, water will be your best friend. But anyway, as the next step, I will be taking some time to roll out the clay, and that's what we're going to do. So let's just jump into it. Okay, so I have my clay all rolled out here. And one thing to keep in mind is you don't want to roll it out too thin, because then it'll just start to break off in the process of molding. So you want to try as much as possible to avoid that. I hope that I have done that. And for me, the next step would be to begin to mold this on the canvas. One question I get really often when it comes to 3D clay art is, how do you get the clay to stick to the canvas? The answer to that is really simple. It's water. Water is going to be your best friend throughout this process. One, it'll keep the clay moist and prevent it from drying out while you're working with it. Two, you just really want to spray down the entire surface of the canvas to make it wet, which will allow the clay to stick to the canvas very effectively. Another thing I want to say here before I proceed to the next step is during the molding process, you want to try as much as possible to make up your mind really quickly. And by that, I mean you don't want to, excuse me, you don't want to overwork the clay. If you overwork the clay, it will begin to fall apart. But don't worry, if you do happen to do that, just go back to step one, knead the clay all over again and roll it out. So clay is forgiven in that way. As a next step, I'm going to water down my canvas and take some time to figure out the shape of the clay while molding that to the canvas. I don't have any clear vision in mind. I really will just be working with the flow of the clay and what looks good to me, but I do know that I want it to be sculptural. Anyway, enough chit chat. Let's get back to work. Okay, so I stopped because for what I have in mind, as I started molding, I realized that I might need a little bit more clay. And so what I'm just going to do is roll this back up, open up a new pack of clay, and knead and roll out. I may not necessarily film that because I feel like that would just be a repetition of step 1 and 2, which I've filmed before, and you can easily visualize that. But once I get back to the molding process, we'll check back in. Okay, so the clay has been restretched and I'm ready to try this again. So I've got the base frame for my clay sculpture finally done. And right now, this is what it looks like. This is what the back looks like. All I did for the back was literally tear off the excess clay with my hands, which is what I have right here. And the front is pretty much just the structure is still pretty rough. Still lots of wrinkles. And so what I am going to do as a next step, first of all, I'm going to knead this clay together to keep it useful, store it in an airtight container with a little bit of moisture just to keep it soft and malleable for use at a later time. But for the next part of this process, water really is my best friend. And so what I will be doing is going to be a little messy and I will show you, but a lot of it will just be wetting my hands and running my hands over the clay to smoothen out the wrinkles, to smoothen out the sculpture as much as possible. It's a really helpful part of the process. Once this is done, I'm pretty much done with this piece for the day, given that it really needs to dry before I can proceed to the next step. It's probably going to take anywhere from about 3 to 5 days for it to fully dry, given it's quite dense and thick. But anyway, let's get back to it. Oh, before I forget, I also wanted to say, per the drying process, it's winter. One tip to help avoid cracks during the drying process: if clay dries too quickly, it'll contract and might lead to cracks. I'm not really worried about that. Cracks are not a big deal to me. If it's cracked, I'll just go ahead and fix it. But if it's, as a tip, something you can do to slow down the drying process, you can just put a piece of plastic over it or a napkin or something, and that would slow down how quickly it dries. I'm not really going to do that, but I just wanted to share that tip. So it's been 3 days, and quite frankly, it is still not dry. This is also partly because I added more clay, so it's a lot more dense. But even though it's not fully dry, it's sturdy enough that I thought it would be a good idea to start sanding off all of the excesses and the roughness. And the idea for this is that it will be some sort of wet sanding, though it's not really wet sanding, but since it's not fully dry, I'm hoping that it will minimize the amount of dust that we're getting. And so that's what I'm going to do today. Let's get to work. Lovely humans, it's been more than a week since I started this clay art, and it's finally at a point where it's almost nearly dry and I feel safe to proceed to the next step, which would be applying my joint compound paste to the clay. I find this particularly helpful because it gets it to a smooth point beyond what I can get by just sanding the clay itself. It would also help fix some of the cracks that have developed during the drying process. I'm not really worried about the cracks. The moment I begin to apply my joint compound paste over it, it would naturally fill up those cracks and cover them up. And so today, what I'm just going to do is begin to apply layers of my joint compound paste and take you through that process with me. So let's get back to work. And so this is the final look. It is sculptural, it is gorgeous, it is neutral. It's such a beautiful piece. I also wanted to mention that off camera, I did spray it with a matte spray varnish just to seal for longevity. I didn't record that process because I did it at night, but you should definitely do this as well. As a reminder, all of the links will be left in the description. It's been so much fun putting this video together. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.